Welcome everybody to this showcase session of Innovation Day SkillMill from Uppsala University. We invite you today to experience the Innovation Day concept that has been developed within the EIT Health community. My name is Lina Sors Emilsson. I work at Upptech at Uppsala University with building bridges between all the technology activities we have at our university and the surrounding society. I also work at EIT Health at Uppsala University, and I have had the assignment during the last 5 years to project lead Innovation Day in collaboration with a growing number of universities throughout Europe. At this session, I'm here together with my colleague Björn Nyström and Elias Falten from the Erasmus program SkillMill at Uppsala University and colleagues in Europe. So the outline we're going to have this hour is that I will introduce you to the how, why and what of Innovation Day, and also introduce you to the next generation of I-Days we are developing at Uppsala University. Then Björn will introduce you to the SkillMill project that will featuring all the cases for the I-Day this year or this spring. And he will also tell you how we build synergies between the EIT Innovation Days and the SkillMill project. And then we're going to end this session before we take questions with Elias, who will take you on a tour on the interactive and playful digital venue that we like to call it. A lot of people also call it gamified, but we decided to go with playful instead. So if we go to the next slide, Björn. Let's see if I can get my, oops, sorry. I have to, there I have it. Cool, now we are on the roll. So what is an Innovation Day? Innovation Day is a challenge-driven education event within the EIT Health Consortium. EIT Health was established 2015 as a knowledge and innovation community, a KIC, of the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, EIT. So there are several KICs within the EIT where health is focused on empowering healthy aging of all the citizens in our countries. And we do this by developing powerful projects within education, innovation, and business creation. 2016, Uppsala University, together with the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm, initiated the EIT Health Innovation Day. And this is a challenge-driven education event. So at the Innovation Days, our aim is to empower our students to be innovative by giving them a mindset and a tool to go from a need in the society to a user-centric solution, and doing so in close communication with different key interest holders in the surrounding environment of our university. The first Innovation Day took place 2016. And it involved 6 universities in Europe. Since then, we have continually developed this concept and incorporated more and more universities. And last year, it was 35 universities conducting an Innovation Day in collaboration. If we go to the next slide, Björn. So, before I go in and tell you about the process and the tools we have developed for our students, I like to emphasize the key values, and that is that this is a challenge-driven education concept, and that every I-Day is based on a case that has been developed together with a case owner in the surrounding of the university where it is organized. In the case of Uppsala University, we have worked with our municipality, the region who is responsible of the healthcare of our city, and also with citizen-driven organization. And cases we have addressed are how can public service workplace attract and retain young university graduates? Other cases we have addressed are how can we combat the loneliness of our elderly community? How can the teenagers, the sugar intake of our teenagers be minimized and have a positive effect on their health? How can we get people living in our city with physical disabilities get the first job interview, which basically is the key break for them to get a job or not, and have an impact on their health and well-being? So these are examples of cases that we have been working on. Now I think it's time for me to introduce you to the process, so you get a little bit of idea what we are doing and giving the students, teaching them. So Björn, if you take us to the next slide. So we are working with a design-inspired innovation process, or you can call it a double diamond innovation process. I'm pretty sure that I have colleagues here in this room who have other names for this innovation process, but the basics are the same. So I will go through the basics now with you. In this picture, you see two diamonds. You see 4 different colors, and every color is a phase of this process. So when we start this event, the students get a case. So this is to the left. They get the case, they get the challenge, which could be, as I gave an example of. The first thing they do is that they open up here, and that is the blue part of the first triangle, is the discover phase. And what the students are supposed to do there is to get as much information in as they can. And in this phase, they need to meet case owners in the society. So they need to meet people who has this need and interview them. At our innovation days in the EIT Health, we have had a 1-day-long event, which basically means that we interview and we invite the people to be interviewed by the students to the venue where we are. I've run courses like this, and what I do then is that I ask the students to go out and find the key persons in the society, but we can't do that when we have an event that goes for a day. So then we invite them to be interviewed. So we have this phase, and that is the opening. That's why the triangle opens up. The next phase, which is green, the students has to define. They have to take it down and really understand, okay, well, all of these interviews and everything we heard, what is the key message? What is the basic needs? And they make a problem statement. And when they have this problem statement of this, they opens up again, and then they are coming up with solutions. They are developing. So this is a develop phase. And then they brainstorm, they come up with solutions. They have 3 solutions. They take these 3 into 1 solution, and then they make a prototype, and then we are in the yellow part of the last triangle, and that's when they come up with a solution, a prototype, a product, what we like to call it. Through this whole process, we have 1 or 2 persons that are the process leading, taking the students through this whole process. And they also have a workbook that we have developed that they can work with and go from, where they have different kind of tools within every part. The develop, discover, define, develop, and deliver phase. And addition to this, every team, we have also I-Day coaches. These are students we have trained in this process who are there to help the groups to develop and go through this process, because we do it quick. And most of the time, you know, you don't have time to do what you want to, but that's also part of the learning here, going from the need to the solution. Now, short video, a 2-minute long video that we recorded 2018 from one of our innovation days. And this part, the case owner was the region of Uppsala, who are responsible for our healthcare system. Here, employees from the region working at the same table with our students to develop a solution to the case design a way for Region Uppsala to better attract, develop and retain talented employees to provide efficient, close and integrated care by 2030. So Björn, video for us.
I was very happy to see students from my own field of expertise, biotechnology. I think it's great that those students can meet students from all other fields at Uppsala University.
We know from research actually that innovation is typically the result of an interactive process where people with different skills solve problems. And therefore it's also important to create arenas where these combinations can occur. And I think Innovation Day is actually a fantastic example of how this can be done.
This is the absolutely best place to be to find creative and sharp students.
So much energy and so many ideas, and the questions make me think.
I see this as a fantastic day. Unique interactions between the public bodies, the municipality, the region, Uppsala University and the students.
A day like this is very good because this is like a real problem. So it feels like you really are doing something to change something.
How to develop the solution of a problem that people actually need to be solved.
When we meet and we learn to talk to each other, we actually find solutions to very tough problems, which can ensure that we can deliver good healthcare in the future as well.
So now I'd like to introduce you to the next generation of I-Days that Uppsala University is developing to make it actually financial, sustainable and accessible to any other course at our university and our partners that would like to work with this concept. Due to the pandemic 2020, we needed to go virtual digital with our Innovation Day. And we did this by using Slack and Zoom. Even though the arrangement as a whole worked very successfully, it was not ideal from a pedagogically point of view. So for this reason, we are now changing the digital tools that we are working with to a program called GatherTown. And this is to perform our Innovation Day. So basically what we are doing is that we are taking the process that we have been developing and the tools and moving them into a proximity-based audio and video chat environment, where every participant gets their own avatar to interact digitally with everyone else at the event. On this picture, you can see the Innovation Island that Elias, who you soon will be meeting, has developed. And Elias will shortly take you on a tour to this island. I just like to point out a few things for the process. So if you look in the middle of the island, you have a square. And there you have the double diamonds and all the tools we have developed in videos, workbooks, and interactive post-it boards are available there for everyone to get to know. We have also put them in every team's room. So you can see a lot of squares around. These are rooms where teams can work together. And then we have just to the right of the double diamond, a booth where the process leader is standing. And Elias is going to give you a more detailed tour into this in a short while. So what we are doing now at Uppsala is that every year we are aiming to have one big live event for a whole day. And in addition to this, we're going to have digital I-Day afternoons in Gathertown. And that will be the first Friday of every month, which will make it easy for any student, no matter where they are geographically, to join our events. So if we go to the next slide, Björn. So 2021, the spring, we are having 4 events. And the first one is taking place tomorrow. So if there is anyone in this room who'd like to join, there are still spaces left and you can sign in, and we will put the link. The link is under here, but we will also put it in the chat. There are also 3 other events coming up during the spring. So if you're interested, just get in contact with us and we are happy to include you. The cases that we're going to work with now, as I told you, the innovation process we are working can be based to any kind of case you like to work with. And this spring, we are joining forces with the SkillMill project. So now I will leave the word to Björn to introduce the SkillMill project and also to tell you how we have built synergies together. Please, Björn.
Thank you very much, Lina, and thank you everyone for listening to this presentation. My name is Björn Nyström and I am a project manager at Uppsala University, and I'm currently coordinating the SkillMill project. Now, in this project, we concern ourselves with what is called soft skills, and more specifically with the kind of skills that hide in each and every one of us, sometimes even without us noticing. So just to get everyone on board, let me begin with just telling you about soft skills. Soft skills, to many people, it can mean many different things. They're sometimes called the transferable skills or essential skills. But what we mean with these are the skills that you have that help you no matter where you go. So if computing skills or programming skills help you in your work, then for example, analytical skills, conflict management, self-sustainability, inductive reasoning, creative problem solving, those kind of skills help you work no matter where you go, no matter what job you do, even in your free time. So we can say that they help us navigate complex challenges and social encounters and new surroundings. In the SkillMill project, we also concern ourselves with the labor markets that we send our students into. And I will tell you why we think about soft skills when we think about this labor market. So let's begin with a quote, which I find interesting. We now live in a skills economy. Now, this is a pretty funny thing to say. And the one who said this is actually the World Economic Forum in a white paper from 2019, which is when we began our project. And in a pretty catchy way, they say that education is what gains us entry into the labor market, but skills is the currency of trade once we are in. And please notice, this was in 2019, before the COVID pandemic caused wide disruptions of the labor market. So in the World Economic Forum in Davos in January this year, they changed the rhetoric to instead talk about a reskilling revolution. So what does this mean for our students? Well, it means, this is not my words, but this is what they say, that a degree does not last you a lifetime. It will get you your first job, it will be an invaluable resource, but so in this fourth industrial revolution that we call the labor market, the world we currently live in, we see a lot of innovations, quick developments, which causes quite large requirements from our students. to not only learn in school, but to continue to learn all through their work lives and careers. So we see these words popping up: self-leading, the ability to identify what skills you lack and get them dynamically, or reskill if you find that your skill set is no longer required, or upskilling if you find that your skills are relevant but a little bit dated. And this is all quite complicated. And in the midst of this skills-focused rhetoric, we see the soft skills that are even more difficult to pin down sometimes. We have this quote: 92% of recruiters say that soft skills matter as much or even more than hard skills when they hire, but that most companies still struggle to assess them accurately. This is from a LinkedIn Global Trends report, which also calls soft skills what everyone wants, but no one knows how to find. So what all this tells us in the SkillMill project collectively is that our students are required to have a skills mindset. They are required to have soft skills that not even the recruiters sometimes are sure of how to frame. Now, this is a challenge. But here enter study abroad. We've all heard this quote: you develop as a person during study abroad. And this is the key. So if we send our students into a skills-focused labor market where soft skills are what is required from everybody, the Erasmus Impact Study Survey looked at 76,000 students and came out with the conclusion that exchange studies, this is something that gives students exactly these mysterious soft skills that the labor market requires. For example, goal orientation, self-confidence, cultural and social openness. And they even compared their findings to non-mobile students in control groups, where they found virtually no development during the short time period where students are abroad. All this put together paints the image of study abroad as being a soft skill training ground, where we send young students out in the world to find sure, and in this process gain essential skill that the labor market is calling for. So that's it. Good. We're done. Or are we? Is it really this simple? I found a very nice quote, which is actually from 2014. So this is not a new issue, where an HR director said that, sure, spending time abroad is wonderful, signals maturity, ambition, but that is not enough. Employers do not want to hear, I lived in Japan for a year and I developed as a person. We and our students, if we have study abroad experience, we need to be able to articulate concisely exactly what we learned and how this can benefit the organization that we want to work in. This is extremely difficult. Myself, I studied and lived in Japan for 3 years. I still can't almost say what I learned. I just know that I learned a lot. And the EU, which finances the soft skill project, is very much aware of this. In a new agenda from this year, the European Skills Agenda, they say, black on white, soft skills from a learning environment and can be difficult to identify, recognize, and communicate. And this is the heart of the SkillMill project. We already know that the study abroad that we're all doing as universities benefit our students immensely, but we can do more. We can train our students in connecting these deeply personal experiences of being on field studies in Chile or negotiating a rent contract in Korea with the kind of skills that are required in the labor market. In SkillMill, we want to create a framework for this training and the deep reflection that it requires. Because this is, as I said, it's not easy. When did you last practice your inductive thinking or your complex problem solving? And how do you connect that backwards to complex experiences that you have had abroad or maybe even in your own country? We do this by building a framework that guides students through the process of identifying, understanding, and verbalizing soft skill training. Because we want to turn their international experiences into international merits. People who are doing this are from Uppsala University, Helsinki University, University of Stavanger, and University of Tartu, which is also a part of the Enlight project. We do this by uniting experts in study abroad and students who have studied abroad, with experts in career counseling and psychology who know the labor market and they know about soft skills acquisition, to gather the best practices and the research that is required to build the infrastructure of reflection to help our students with this challenge. But we cannot do this alone. We didn't want to write a PDF and send out that students may or may not read. We wanted to take it one step further. So we created an interdisciplinary collaboration with game design. When people think of game design, a lot of people only think about games, but this field of research is so much deeper. There is unique research into how we learn via symbolism. And they do research into very complex games, for example, games that help people navigate psychological trauma. So this is the expertise that helps us to create something that we think can help all our students across Europe. And in light of this, we are so happy to collaborate with EIT Health and the Innovation Days, because it gives us the last piece of the puzzle. We need to bring students into this process. We need to understand students' experiences of being abroad. And we thought we would do this by hiring students and having them help us develop this app. But EIT Health and the Innovation Days helped us take this so much further by actually giving our design challenges to students, to invite them into the design process. So with 50 students at every single Innovation Day, we don't do this for students, we do this with students. And that is why I can't wait to get to the first Innovation Day tomorrow, where I hope you will join us, and to see just how wonderful we can make this process together. So with that said, I would like to invite Elias Falten to the stage. He is the genius behind this innovation island, who has thought of it and built it. And I don't want to keep him from you any longer. Elias, are you with us?
Yes.
Take it away.
All right. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a walkthrough through the Innovation Island. And you see we're not immediately starting off in the island. We're actually in something that we call the tutorial tunnel. So this is where everyone arrives. And I have to just say, I did not do this all by myself. I had help from a student that I studied together with, and she graduated together with me and now also works at the Department of Game Design here on Gotland. Her name is Moa, and she is the artistic competence behind a lot of what you see today, and helped me a lot in drawing and in conceptualizing this space that we built. And yeah, like I said, this is the area where students will pop in when they first enter the GatherTown space. And we have a little help desk here that we can have someone at to help people and guide them when they first arrive and help them with their initial setup. And then they start by having to go through this little obstacle course. And like you see, it says there on the wall, you move around using the arrow keys or as gamers would prefer to do the WASD keys. You can use either of those to move around in the space. And we kind of force people to practice that a little bit with this little obstacle course that we've built here. The next big feature of GatherTown is that you can press X to interact with different things. So you can, for example, put a little picture behind an object that you can interact with, or you can also interact with things and have them redirect to a website. So this is the website that I posted in the chat earlier that you can look into if you're interested in the innovation days and maybe joining up and finding out more about them. This is also the feature we use to give students access to the different materials that Lina had described earlier, where they can have something to use the process with. And we see now Lina joined us here, and what you can see is as she stands outside of this blue area, she will fade away, and this is the proximity-based voice and video chat that she described earlier. So when I stand here in the red square in the middle, you see this interaction radius that you have with other people. So you can squeeze quite a lot of people in this kind of dynamic breakout room, let's call it. The next thing that you can do is you can go and sit down at a table in so-called private spaces. So if you sit in a private space here, if you see Lina is moving outside of the private space, I can't see her and can't talk to her. If she jumps back in, there she is. And that way you can kind of escape the noise and have a private conversation or an interview with someone. And you'll see these private spaces scattered around the map, the island that we're going to go to in a second, so that students can talk to each other without having to kind of scream throughout the noise. So yeah, I'm going to move on now, go past the tutorial tunnel into our teleporter area. The Innovation Island is part of the GatherTown space that the game department uses. So there are other spaces within this that the game department uses for other events as well. And there's another little garden space here where coaches or support staff can hang out and help anyone that gets lost. And like I just mentioned, this is the teleporter area. As you see, there are different teleportation pads. And as soon as we run into one of those, we get teleported to the Innovation Island. And yeah, Lina showed you this a bit earlier and alluded to this already right here in the center square where people will pop in, like Lina just did there. We have our double diamond. And if you walk up to any of these screens, you will see here in the bottom left corner, there's a YouTube video embedded within the screen. And again, with pressing X, you can get into the full screen view of that video and watch it. We also have the workbook for the innovation days right here, so students can access it and take a look at it. And in this case, we presented that as a presentation that they can go through. Right next to this double diamond, you can see we call it the DJ booth internally. This is where our process leader can go into and step on this broadcasting square here. That's a special place in the map that if you're on it, you will pop up in everyone's kind of feed up here. So you can talk to everyone on the entire island, which if I can just zoom out is quite a big place. So we would never be able to kind of talk to everyone otherwise. But with this broadcast square, the process leader can jump in and say, okay, it's time to move on to the next step, for example. And there again, a few private spaces where the process leader can jump in and answer questions that people have, or if the person needs a bit of quiet time, they can hide in there as well. Now, as another thing on the main square, we have a little mini map here, so people know what group rooms are to be found where, and you see they're kind of organized like a clock face. So 12 is the northernmost room, 6 is the southernmost room, and so on. I think as a next step, we can just quickly run over to one of those rooms. And you see as I step into the room, the rest of the screen gets a bit darker and the room gets bright. And this means that each of these rooms is a private space. You can imagine, if you remember the big square I showed you earlier, if I would stand here and another one of the other team 2 would stand in the corner over there, we would yell at each other. No one wants that. So the whole team room is a private room. Again, they have a link to the Innovation Day workbook. They have a Zoom link on the table in case any of them experience technical issues with GatherTown or just prefer using Zoom. They each have their own individual Zoom room that they can jump into and talk in there. And if you do that, then it will automatically mute you and turn off your camera in GatherTown and just let you use Zoom instead. And you see each of the team rooms has a little couch space as well, where you can have little interviews or talk to each other or again, escape the noise. And last but not least, each team room has one of these whiteboards that if you interact with the whiteboard, it will send you to a link to, like Lina mentioned before, one of these Google Jamboards that includes different templates again, and a lot of free space for students to do their brainstorming and different other exercises in that the process asks them to do. So yeah, let's jump out of the team room again and just highlight a few other small things. You see these little stumps across the island. There's one in front of every team room. This is where the coaches will sit. And I think Lina talked a little bit about it. We're going to have student coaches here as well. We plan to have 4 of those, so each of them can be responsible for up to 3 teams. And they can sit here outside of the team room, and then whenever someone in the team has a question, they can wave their hand, for example, or quickly run out of the team room and then help them with whatever problems they have regarding the process. The next thing you see, like I mentioned, there are going to be a lot of little private spaces around, are these small logs that are scattered around the map. Those are if the students want to interview each other or it will have one-on-one interviews with experts, for example, then they can just sit on a little log here and talk to each other. Otherwise, since this is a very short event and we won't have 12 experts ready always, we have these bigger campfires where experts can have a kind of press conference style interview session with multiple students of multiple teams at the same time. So each experts can just sit or stand at a campfire, and then students can pop in and out of this private space and talk to them and answer questions, listen to each other's questions and kind of add on to it. So yeah, that's that. Otherwise, we have a little bit of kind of smaller mingle spaces or spaces you can escape to in the corner of the island. There's a poker table in one of them, but I don't know if many people will have time to play lots of poker. But yeah, as a last small thing, I can show you the pitch room. This is a little space that everyone can teleport to at the end of the day. And then the members of the different teams can sit up here on the stage on a chair and then wait to go up and present the solution that they've developed with their team. And again, this makes use of one of these spotlight squares where they can talk to every person in the room. So whoever is sitting in one of the chairs down here can then listen to them talk. And we have a little moderation podium where Björn, for example, can stand and call the next team up to present. And from here, again, you can go back to the Innovation Day space or to the teleport room. So yeah, this is the island. And I think that's pretty much everything I have to show and talk about. There are lots of other small little features in GatherTown that are interesting, but that's something that you can discover for yourself. We're gonna go and share a link with you that allows you to jump into our island for the next, or until this evening. I think the link expires at 8 p.m. tonight, so that it's not going to be overly full tomorrow when we're going to run our event. If you're interested in participating in the event itself or just taking a look at what's going on, there's also a link you can register for in the chat already further up. I can post both of those links in a second again. And yeah, I think that's everything from me. And if there isn't anything that I missed completely, I will give it back to Björn and he can initiate the Q&A session.
Thank you very much, Elias, for showing us that. And thank you to you and Moa for building it, and to you for getting the idea. When we started collaborating with you in SkillMill, I don't think we could really imagine how many amazing doors that would open. So with that said, we would like to open up the floor for questions from our audience. And I have some instructions for you. So we don't see your faces. We need you to use the digital waving hands. And I will look at you in the participation list and unmute you when I see you waving. I hope that is clear to everyone. So I am now looking at the participation list, and if anyone has a question, please don't hesitate to use the reactions button and wave a hand, and I will unmute you so we can hear your question.
I can also see that we have some questions in the chat, Björn.
Absolutely, I'm more than happy to bring those up as well.
So one of the questions is from Susanna, who asked, what are the typical problem solving during Innovation Days? And I would say there is no typical problem solving in the Innovation Day. The whole thing about the Innovation Day is that you can work with any kind of problem that your program or your course is attending. The most important thing is that it has to have a connection to the surrounding society. I would emphasize that. But there is otherwise no specific questions that one can work with.
And I have to say, I have to endorse this work method. It was completely new to me, but we ran a pilot in December with just 15 students. And just with that little framework, we got actually one really good idea that we end up using in SkillMill. So I'm so excited when we bring the design thinking from the EIT Days into this as well.
We have a question from Jager here, who says, thank you for a very interesting presentation. GatherTown is also used in Groningen in innovation ways. I know I work with Groningen and it's a wonderful university to work together with regarding this. My questions relates to how you see this application used in the Interdisciplinary partnership. GatherTown is one of the tools also used for virtual exchange to get students to work together. Do you imagine linking students from different countries and cases you have created? I ask this because the soft skills Björn mentioned related particularly to global and intercultural competences. We have presented what we've done here today, and we are open to enlighten system to see how this can empower this collaboration and this part. So I don't think I'm the right person to tell you and ask how this can be used in the enlightened person. It's here, and take contact and see what we can develop, I would say.
I see that we have a question from one of the Enlight coordinators, Emilia. Would you like to ask a question?
Yes, thank you so much. It was really great to listen to this presentation, very inspiring. And I have actually a question to Björn regarding the SkillMill. Yes, do you have any idea when such kind of app will be developed? And another part of the question, do you think that it can be developed also outside the range of exchange students, help the students develop their skills being at home or starting to work as well? Thank you.
Thank you, Emilia. Wonderful questions. I need to keep it short. I could use another 1 hour to answer this. So let's begin with the easy question. We launched the full game design process this spring. So we aim to have the app completely done and launched by autumn 2022. But we aim to complete the first concepts this spring and go into follow-on development this fall. Your next question was about, is this just for exchange students? And I'm so happy you asked it, because the answer is no. The only difference between exchange students and you and me is that exchange students experience the soft skills training perhaps more intensively than we do at home, since they are bombarded by new situations 1,000 times a day. But the dynamic is same for everyone. And anytime we do something new, and needs are also the same, which is a skills mindset. It's knowledge about what these skills are, and also practice in the kind of reflection process it takes to go from an experience to a concrete insight in, okay, I think I trained this here and I can use this like that in the future. So we hope that anyone will be able to use SkillMill. And students can benefit a great deal from it due to the unique experience of studying abroad. I hope that answers your question.
We have a question from Jolene. How much time did it take to create this GatherTown map?
I guess I'll jump in here. I think we started with the first concept about a month ago, maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago at the earliest. And then we've iterated on it quite a lot. So I think the background image, for example, that we have in now is the 5th iteration, and edges became rounder, and the grass looked greener every time we updated it. Basically, I think it really came together in the last week or two, where we added a lot of foliage and all these small little logs, and the campfires came in, and we managed to link all the materials and all of these things. So that came together in the last few weeks. And yeah, I think this can be done relatively quickly if you spend a lot of time with it. But I would totally encourage everyone to be open to iterate this. Don't pressure yourself that it has to be perfect the first time. Build something, try it out, and then see what's still missing, and yeah, change it again.
And I also like to emphasize that, you know, what is in GatherTown today and what Elias will put in is taken a few years for us to develop the whole process. So we really have had a super team working on different kind of aspects, getting the process going, adjusted to the digital, building the digital, getting the case on the board. So it's a good to have a team, or once again, how multidisciplinary teams really can build synergies together. I think this is a good example of that, and how European projects can really emphasize and empower each other in doing things. We have a question here from Spazia. Is there a recommended number of students participating at the same event? So from the process point of view, I would say you can have hundreds of students doing this. It just comes down to how much support people you have working at the same time. The most important thing is that when you have teams working together, don't go below 3 in any group, and try to don't go above 5. I think that is a kind of a good number to have the teams. Then you can work with, we have put the number level of 50 for this event, but when we had our live events, we have had up to 100. And first time we could have even gone bigger. It just comes down to how much people you have. Having facilitators is important when you are running any kind of workshops to get the process going through.
The only thing I would add on to that is that in GatherTown, there's a limit of, I think, 150 people that can be in a space, and for you to still use this spotlight square. So as soon as you would go bigger than that, you would have to duplicate the islands and run multiple people. And then, like Lina said, then it really depends on if you can get enough facilitators together to run off that process. But otherwise, I agree, it's unlimited, essentially.
I think what we're going for today is something between 20 and 50 participants is a good number for us. Let's see, we're running the first event tomorrow, so we're happy to come back and share our experiences. Jeremy asks, in GatherTown, how easy is it to replicate the real-world location in Schöningen? The Faculty of Behavioral and Social Sciences located in the Hortus, the old botanical garden, thank you. This was planted in the 1600s, part of the tulip mania, and it's quite beautiful. I would be nice to have a virtual equivalent. Elias.
Yes, so what GatherTown consists of is, on the one hand, a background that you can paint in Photoshop, for example. The thing you need to know is that it works on a tile-based system. So the whole map essentially exists out of 32 by 32 pixel large tiles. But as soon as you get that together with someone that has an idea of how Photoshop and digital art works, then then the limits are basically your imagination. You can do some nice tricks with using a background in the foreground, so that, for example, people can walk underneath trees instead of walking on top of them. So there's quite a lot you can do. It's not quite as advanced as a standard game engine or something in terms of building things. But I think there are quite few limitations, and I think it can be a good tool to kind of recreate physical spaces. We at the game department here have recreated, for example, our cafeteria space, the Marktfabriken space, and we ran our introduction days for students there. So even though international students couldn't come to the island yet and sit in the real cafeteria, maybe when they make it here eventually, they can kind of recognize what they've spent their time in digitally previously. So I think there's definitely a chance to do that.
So we have a question from Victoria. Very interesting conceptually with respect to the game environment for individuals with disabilities. The technology intuitively shows promise to empower inclusion for those with individual needs. Are you looking at and including individuals with disabilities in the beta testing? Björn, would you like to, or should I?
Well, that depends if we're looking at SkillMill or at the Innovation Island. I, of course, cannot speak for the,
for the innovation day and the innovation process. I think this is, you're spot on, Victoria. This opens up an opportunity to a larger amount of students to participate. But when it comes to students with disabilities, it shouldn't be any difference if we are in a physical environment. We should make it inclusive and accessible anyway. I think GatherTown is a good opportunity, but when we are running our live events, they are also inclusive, and we need to make them inclusive. Yeah.
No, I don't think I can add anything to that. I can only agree.
Let's see, Victoria has here, love the queue and idea of links to actual gardens environments. This brings to mind a question. Have you explored recording events, namely that other groups could visit at another time?
So yeah, recording isn't built into GatherTown like it is in Zoom, but you can use regular recording tools that are used by millions of YouTubers and streamers around the world nowadays. It's called OBS, is the leading software there, open broadcast software. It's a very useful recording tool to record your screen, and you could use that to also record any GatherTown events and make them available afterwards.
I also saw something about Innovation Day. We had a colleague who was preparing an Innovation Day. Julie, could it be? Would you like to unmute and ask the question? Because I can't find it in the chat now. Julien. Inspiring, thank you. Great use of GatherTown. We are still planning our I-Day physically in October, but if it's not possible, this seems like a great option. Julie, please get in contact with me and see how we can do. We're also planning for a live I-Day in October in Uppsala, but we don't know how the world will look. So most probably we actually will go digital, I think. I'm afraid that will be the situation for us, all of us in Europe. But let's see. So just get in contact, Jolene, if you want to. So do we have any other questions that I missed? Then Björn, I leave to you to wrap it up.
All right then. Well, I would like to give my big thanks and gratitude to everyone who joined us here today. It's very exciting to interact with you, and we hope to see you tomorrow at the first I-Day. Like Elias and Lina said, we still have places left. I'm very excited to continue following the Enlight kickoff. We have wonderful experiences from EU projects in the SkillMill project. And I cannot sit here and talk about the SkillMill project without thanking my colleagues in Helsinki, Anna and Sanna, in Tartu, Kadri and Kristel and Ylle, and in Stavanger, Trond and Vibeke, and of course my colleagues in Uppsala, Elias, Madeleine, Daniel, all of you for making this collaboration possible. So we are happy to work with EIT Health, and we hope that we have inspired you just a little bit. Anything to add from you, Lina?
Well, I also have to acknowledge everyone in Europe and that is part of the EIT Health community and has been part during the last 5 years developing the Innovation Day concept, especially our colleagues from Imperial College that before the Brexit was in charge of keeping all of us together. Emily and Philippios, there was a great effort from them to doing that. So, and we are now looking forward together with Barcelona, who will be coordinating Spain, who will be coordinating the Innovation Days further on. So, yeah.
So, thank you very much. I think that's all from us. We got here together, and it will be so exciting to see where Enlight goes together. Thank you.